back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week.
We certainly are.
And we're very excited today. We have Pam Rivers. She is a transformation guide who empowers individuals, whether high-achieving women, executives, attorney, first responders, women in transition, or people who just want to keep growing and expanding by helping them align with their deepest self, inner honesty, and highest purpose through deep inner work, plant medicine work, and community building. With over 34 years of experience as a therapist, Pam has worked with diverse populations from marginalized, vulnerable groups to those in positions of power, guiding people through profound personal transformation. Her approach combines a deep understanding of trauma, healing, leadership, and personal growth, blending Jungian psychology, internal family systems, Buddhism, and goddess training. Pam services are designed to meet the variety of needs to include intentional conscious microdosing, education, and support, deep dive immersion work, plant medicine preparation and integration counseling, retreats and special events like Whispers from Beyond, Dinner with the Dead, or Morocco Madness, traveling retreat. Pam is a 60-year-old artist, athlete, and dancer who celebrates physical vitality and creative expressions as powerful pathways to personal growth and lasting transformation. Excuse me. She believes that through aligning with our inner wisdom and nurturing our bodies as sacred vessels, we unlock the potential to evolve continuously, embodying our fullest selves at every stage of our lives. So welcome, Pam. We're really excited to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and reading your bio, there was so many things that intrigued me. Like the microdosing has always intrigued me, and I don't know a lot about it. And I really like the Dinner with the Dead that I do have to say also really intrigued.
Yeah, they're both. The Dinner with the Dead is a whole experience, and maybe we'll get to that. But I'd love to explain to you about microdosing and kind of share the basics so that everybody has an understanding. We're seeing a lot of it in the media now. There's a lot of attention about this, and it's psilocybin is actually considered in the U.S. a breakthrough drug. So it has breakthrough status with the FDA, meaning that there's such potential for the therapeutic uses. So it's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time with this.
Yeah, it seems like really exciting because it looks like that there's just so many different uses for it, like within helping people with PTSD and then helping people that are struggling and then, different health things. So I think it's very interesting and happy that it's kind of coming to a forefront because I think it was around, but I think it was so, without the FDA approval, it was hard for people to really promote this a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that now there's research that's starting. There's not a lot of research on the microdosing, but what there is, it lets us know that it's very safe. And that the potential healing properties are huge. And for me personally, my experience with microdosing has been so incredible. And then with my clients as well. And actually, when I came into this work, I hadn't planned on getting into the microdosing arena. And people kept asking me, what about microdosing? I'm like, well, okay, let's go. So I just kind of got into it that way. And it's becoming a lot of what I do because it is so powerful for most people. I would say, I find myself saying this, I need to count and look at my numbers, which I'm not good at. That's not my forte, but I would say 85 to 90%, probably close to 90% of the clients that I work with would report very good to excellent results. And I've only had 2 people that have stopped because they didn't like it. And my assessment is both of these people had really intense kind of personal things happen right at the time. And it just wasn't a good time to start something new, right? There was crisis basically for them. Right. So I don't know on that. But I've literally had 2 people that have said, no, this isn't for me. But everybody else is like, oh my gosh, where has this been all my life? Yeah.
So can you explain to everybody what microdosing is for anybody that doesn't know what that is?
I'll give you kind of the overview of how it works, what it does, and yeah. So microdosing is exactly that. It's taking a fraction of a whole dose of a psychoactive substance. And you can microdose with other things like LSD. There are other substances, other psychedelics that you can microdose, but I'm just going to keep the focus on psilocybin today. But let me actually back up one step. Psilocybin, the street name is magic mushrooms, and people have kind of heard that term. So there are over 200 varieties of psilocybin mushrooms worldwide. It grows worldwide. In my region, in the northwest of the United States, there's lots of psilocybin. Like, it's growing around my house. It's amazing. Like, it's everywhere. Well, I shouldn't say that, because people hunt for it all over the place and it's hard to find. But if you know what you're looking for, you know the right places. I'm sure I live in a rural area, and I know I haven't gone out hunting for it, but I'm sure it's growing around here. So anyhow, there are over 200 varieties growing worldwide. And so with the microdosing, you're taking a fraction of a full dose, which would be what we call a trip, right? Where you're having the visuals and all of that. So this is about 5% usually of a full dose. So it's a 0.1 to 0.3 grams typically. That being said, I start people lower because I have found that the therapeutic levels for many of us, it's lower than what the standard microdosing in the research says. But I can get to that in a minute. So how it works in the brain is it activates the serotonin receptors in the brain, which is what antidepressants do as well. So it activates the 5-HT2A receptor primarily. So that receptor is involved with learning, cognition, memory. It governs mood and thinking. So that's kind of the science piece about it. And the other thing that happens is what we call neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is the brain's incredible ability to kind of rewire itself, and it's how we learn new things, right? So when you introduce psilocybin in these small amounts and the large amounts, but we're talking microdosing into the brain, the neuroplasticity, the brain kind of opens up and you can learn easier, right? And it helps us to let go of outdated or rigid thinking patterns, right? So this is where, like, PTSD, anxiety, depression, that working in those areas is very, it makes sense, right? And the other part is that, like, the rewiring, it's this gentle rewiring of the brain. So there is some research right now happening on traumatic brain injuries and concussions. And I have a number of clients that have come to me with pretty severe concussion, brain injury stuff, and they've tried everything. It's been, just a long, difficult journey. And I've had a couple of people that have had some really good results with the microdosing, and it takes a while, right? But it actually heals the brain. And there are like new neuro connections that happen. I describe it, a lot of people describe it as this, it's like fresh fallen snow, right? So when you're skiing, if you're a skier, I'm not a skier, but you can imagine this, like, there are the tracks that go down the hill that everybody skis down. But then when it's like a clean slate and there's fresh snow, you get to make new tracks. And that's how this works. So with my clients, we really identify, like, the old patterns when we're setting intentions on what the work is. Like, what do you want to change? What are you looking to have shifts around? And then what happens is you have this kind of decision point where the old pathway, you're able to see this old pathway. This is how I always used to do it, right? This is my anxiety track. And I had a woman today talking about that. She's had really wonderful improvements in her, and this anxiety pattern that she has. And, like, she'll see it coming, and then she's able to be like, that's the way I used to go, but I'm going this way now. And that new path. So, and you can feel that happening. It's fascinating. It's really amazing when that happens. So yeah, really, we get to rework and rewire the brain in this very gentle way. And I talk about it in terms of these portals that are the common denominator effects of microdosing. So there are some effects that most people, almost everybody get. And then there are some outlying effects that some people get, some people don't. Like some of them are improved sleep. I didn't get that one. I was really bummed about that. Some people are like, dang it, why didn't I get better sleep? So you can't, yeah, you get what you get, right? But the common denominator effects are really incredible. So improved focus, energy, creativity, this emotional resilience and emotional regulation. There's a slowing down that happens. There's almost like a pause where you can have more of be in an observation role of yourself. And that slowing down helps us to catch these patterns and then set the new paths, right? And to try these new paths and to work the new paths. So yeah, focus, energy. People with ADHD do really well with it. I'm very hyperactive. I have some of the attention stuff too. And when I microdose, my little punch list gets done. I'm just like, dun, 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 dun. It's fantastic. And then there are some other things that happen. And again, common denominator effects, this improved, it's grounded confidence. So people become more of who they really are, but in this confident way. It's fascinating to watch this kind of emerge with people, that you just have more self-assuredness and you're more tuned into your body, into your honesty. And that being said, there is some research that lets us know that doing this in a structured protocol way, there's specific protocol to use in this specific way with guidance, with somebody trained, is the best way to do it. Because you can take a pill and it will work, and you can you can do the microdosing on your own. A lot of people do, and they have benefits, but we all know that, like, when you put energy and focus into something and some structure, those benefits are definitely magnified. So anyhow, I'm going to pause there for some questions, but like I said, I get going about this.
I have one. Okay. So you say it rewires the brain as such. So if you're having pain or something like that, could it also help to rewire that so that maybe your pain isn't as bad in some areas? Can you walk them through that?
Sometimes. So again, we set intentions and people are hopeful that they're going to have changes in these specific things, and you don't know what you're going to get. I've had some people that have had definitely some relief in some chronic pain issues. But that's not necessarily one of the common denominator effects. So that's a maybe. That's a maybe, right? Same with the sleep. Sleep is maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. But people do use it for that. Headaches. I have a woman right now that has a migraine situation. So that's in the pain area. So that's a maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because they say that a lot of pain is we build it in our brain thinking we have it, and we take Tylenol and things like that. So our body lies to us.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's true. So, I'm thinking that maybe that would bring on some kind of solution for people that have it locked up in there,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if that were the case, and I've had a couple people that want to work on that, like that would be their intention. We would focus the program on that and really kind of targeting that. So yeah. Yeah, I have a man right now, very interesting situation. We call it night fights, but it's a PTSD response, military guy, long-term military guy. And he starts kicking and punching at night. And he's accidentally kicked his wife and stuff. It's a problem. He's like, this is bad. So he's on all these sleep drugs so that he doesn't fight. He calls it night fighting, right? So he just started, we're targeting that. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're targeting that thing because it's a bad issue for him. And then other things are happening too. But so some of this it's pioneering in some ways, but yeah, to target that, absolutely. Because you're right. It's so the mind body connection, right?
Right. So you teach this or online too? Like, or do you prefer the person being there? Okay.
No, I do. No, it's all actually, except for people that live very local. And I don't have I mean, I have local clients, but most of my clients are virtual. Yeah, no, we do it all. So I have a couple of microdosing programs. I have one, a 12-week, it's just for women. It's for women that are really thriving and excelling, right? Like kind of high powered careers, but they have this feeling of like, I've kind of hit the top, but I'm not happy. Like I thought that how, achieving all of this would fulfill me, and I'm just not. It's interesting. I had a lot of that type of woman coming to me to be like, God, I'm empty, right? I look good, but I'm empty. And so aligning, like finding their alignment and connecting more with their honest self so that they can go out in the world with their power, with all of their their achievement, and make a difference, right? First finding that alignment inside, and then taking it out into the world and doing good stuff. So I have that's completely virtual, 12-week program. And then I have a 6-week individual, that's in a group setting. So it's yeah, really powerful people, women that are like out there kicking butt, right? And then I have an individual 6-week program that's one-on-one, right? So we start with, I call it onboarding, and I do the education piece so everybody understands the science and the art to microdosing. And then it's a 6-week microdosing journey, basically. So there's protocol that goes with it, with the microdosing. So you don't microdose every day. You microdose a maximum of 4 times a week. So it's very specific, very specific. And again, finding that therapeutic dose takes a week or two usually. And then we kind of set the course and go, and then let the effects come on. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So is there some when you're microdosing, my brain's, you know me, my brain's like, ah. So when you're microdosing, then is there some aspect of, like, I don't know if I would say counseling or therapy, but some kind of journaling or some kind of, because it sounds like there's a mixture between the microdosing and the kind of trying to get to the bottom of whatever the problem is.
Yes, 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 yes to everything you're saying. So there are lots of elements. The journaling, in the 6-week program, for instance, we meet for 30 minutes a week, and we're touching in on the intentions. There's some ritual that goes with this. So when you take the medicine in the morning, creating ritual around it, pulling your intentions up. We work really intensively with the intentions. And I have some people that I recommend that they set an alarm on their watch or their phone for every hour. Ding. And then they pull up their intentions, pull them forward, pull them forward, pull them forward. So it can be very intensive. I have some people that really get into it, and we do so much, and other people, have medium amount or a low amount of that involvement. But the journaling, really increasing all of kind of the life-giving activities. And depending on what the intentions are, like for some people, they want to increase their physicality and movement. So this is an interesting thing too. One of the not common denominator effects, one of the outlying, like the sleep, right, is this increased athleticism. So it's a really good time for people to, if they want to start some kind of exercise or move, and they want to move more or whatever, it's a great time to do that, because it's one of the portals, right? So it makes that easier and more natural for people that are already athletes. And this happened to me, and it blew me away. It can like ramp you up. My performance just, and I'm 60, right? I didn't, like, you don't think you're going to get better at something, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden I was like, what is happening here? It was so cool. And I do this bar class. It's a ballet based thing. And my balance got so good. It's weird. So, and then I've got a woman that's running a half marathon on this next weekend. And so like athletes tend to get that kind of naturally, but other people, it's one of the portals. So if that's something you want to increase, it's a really good time. The other one that almost everybody gets is this, that you pull away from alcohol a little bit. You're not very interested. It's not that, so it's good to, if people want to, addressing addiction, good thing. I've got some people quitting smoking right now. But the alcohol, I drink, I still drink. I love a glass of wine, like whatever, but I'm not interested in it. Like it's decreased since in the 2 years that I've been using microdosing. My drinking is, and I didn't even drink much, but it's minimal now.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
That is
It's
interesting.
really cool. Actually, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really, yeah, go ahead.
Kimmy wanted to ask something. Go ahead, Kim.
So, sorry. So when you're doing this, then is there things that you should avoid while you're going through this process?
You do your whole life. I equate it to like coffee. That's what it's like. It's a supplement. It's coffee. You're not high. You're not tripping. I tell people the first 2 days that you microdose, stay home for 4 hours. And it's not a safety thing. It's so that you understand, oh, this is what it is. It's like coffee. It's not like a glass of wine. It's like the equivalent of like coffee if you're a coffee drinker. Not 2 cups of coffee, maybe a half a cup or 1 cup. So you drive, you go to work. I've got doctors microdosing. I've got a number of emergency room doctors microdosing. I have, no, it's not, it's like, it's a supplement. Really, it's a supplement. It's on that level. So there's nothing, there are some contraindications. So microdosing is a little bit different, but if you have a history of psychosis, in a diagnosis of schizophrenia, or anybody in your family, immediate family or bloodline, up to like the grandparent level of any kind of psychotic disorder or schizophrenia, psilocybin or any of the hallucinogenics, you should never touch them. The risk factor is too high. And I think they'll probably find with microdosing that it's different, but we don't have that research yet. So I won't work with anybody with any of the psychotic, that whole arena.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But besides that, and then for high dose too, it's the schizophrenia, psychotic disorders, and then seizure disorder. There is some caution. People with color blindness, it can, I'm not even sure what it does, but that's one of the things that it kind of exacerbates in some strange way. Yeah. So no, yeah, it's very safe. It's out of your system in 24 hours. It's non-addictive.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So if a person was doing a program with you online, how would they get the stuff to take? Like, can you just order that online, or do you provide that for them?
I don't provide it. And I say that because I don't deal drugs. Nope. I just provide this side of the service. I'm not a drug dealer. And that being said, in the United States, I'm sure in Canada you can, I'm fairly positive you guys, it's legal to some degree in some places in Canada, I think.
Okay.
In the United States, couple of things. One, I tell people, ask around to trusted people. You probably know somebody that's growing or has access, so people can access it on their own. In the United States, there is a weird legal loophole that churches can actually sell it and call it sacrament or give it to people. I think they don't say they sell it, but you give a donation and you receive a product and it's considered sacrament for churches. So that's a weird loophole in the US. So you can buy it through a church in the United States. Isn't that bizarre?
That is bizarre.
That is
sacrament. Yeah. They also churches don't pay taxes in the US either. So there you have it. I was going to be a church. I was going to go that route so I could do this all legally. Guess what the church name was going to be? The Church of the Sacred Bitch. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing that. It's too much work. So I just go to the other churches, find some. I help people get connected if they need help getting connected, but you can buy it through churches here. I don't know what the situation is in Canada. But yeah, so yeah.
Well, that's cool. That is very cool. Well, we'll have to look into it in Canada so we have maybe put something on our podcast too for that.
Yeah.
When it comes to that time for people who are looking it up and are interested and want to try it out, then maybe they have an access somewhere to get it.
Yeah, it's really, for me personally, it has been such a huge part of my growth and transformation. I started microdosing for the first time a little more than 2 years ago, and I've done, so you do it in the protocol. There are different protocols, but the way that I do it, it's in like a 6-week chunk, right? You need to take breaks. And then in between the formal 6-week protocol, people, and what I did was what I call intuitive microdosing. So it's not, it's just sometimes, right? But in doing this work, so I was a straight up therapist working with kids and families before I came into this work a couple of years ago. And I hadn't done I did some psychedelics when I was a teenager, right? Just one of them, right? But I had nothing. I had kids, family, career. I was like this teetotaling, I was, no. And then I watched this friend of mine have the most profound transformation. And he did a series of journeys and deep dive journeys, and I was just like blown away by watching what was happening to him. And we were out one night. He was telling me about like the latest thing, and I'm watching his life just transform and him transform in this very deep, real way. And he's telling me, we're sitting there having dinner, and he stops and he's like, "Pam, I think you should do this work." And I was like, "You're right." And that was it. It was like, I was like, "Oh my God, that's it." And then off I went. And I never thought I would leave the work I was doing. Never. I loved what I was doing. Loved it. And off I went. And then I completed, we were the first 100 people in the United States to be trained and eligible for state licensure in the state of Oregon. So I was in like the first 100. So it's been really exciting. And then I had never, run my own business. I was always working for other people. And so it's been this, and the microdosing has strengthened me. And I feel so clear. I feel so much more aligned and attuned with my true, deepest self. And I see this happening with my clients and these just magnificent ways. It's so rewarding for me. And I learned so much. I've learned so much from doing this work and building this program. And it's been, I just can't, I say, I can't believe I get to do this. I get to do it. And the people that are drawn to this, oh my gosh, I have the most incredible clients. Like, it's incredible who wants to do this. So I never, 5 years ago, did not see this at all.
And it was just for you. That was for you. That was your calling. Okay, I'm going to come on. Okay, go ahead, Kimmy.
I think it's really interesting, like how you're working with like these like doctors and paramedics and people with these really high stress jobs. And so I think that's really good, because I think that really speaks to how it can kind of shift you away from that stress at least a little bit, because I would imagine those people, I mean, that's not my job, but I imagine with that kind of stress every day in your life, you got to be just living almost on the edge.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's I have 3 doctors right now. One of them I met with today, and she's an emergency room doctor. She's on week 2 or 3 microdosing. And she was sick, and one of her things, the anxiety and the stress, definitely. But she had a lot of intrusive thoughts throughout the day that were really affecting her work and her ability to focus. And the intrusive thoughts, she said it's about 75% reduction.
Wow.
Yep.
In 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's pretty.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good. You know,
Another one of my doctors that's up there. I've got in the Seattle area, I've got this little enclave of people. And this other one, he had been on sleep meds for over 20 years. This is why I was so jealous of him. Like, this is not fair. Sleep meds for 20, he's off all his sleep meds. He's actually thinking about leaving the profession. He's like, this isn't good for me. And he's thinking about leaving and doing something else because he's like, I am just like getting drained. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the other thing. I caution people with microdosing. It can change your life. And it can change you and what you want to do and how you want to walk on this planet and I had a client, gosh, 6 weeks ago that reached out to me, and her marriage has been bad for a really long time. And she was telling me about her husband, and she's like, I want to microdose and I think I want to do a deep dive. And I said, well, I need to stop you right here. I need to caution you that and I could tell by what she was telling me. I said, if you microdose and you do this program, there's a good chance you're going to leave your husband and your marriage is going to not be something you want anymore. So I have to give you a warning right now. Like, I'm not kidding. And guess what? He's out. He's out. Last week, she booted him.
But that's good though.
It is really good, but you have to know, like, this is no joke, right?
Right. That's good because women, a lot of women, well, men too now more days than before, they need that encouragement somehow in order to get that edge to do the move that they need to make. So that there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And it strengthened her, right? It strengthened her. She's like, and that's what it does. Like, you get in tune with your honesty and with and you listen to yourself in this way. And I say, there's this woman, Maria Sabina, who's like the grandmother of psilocybin from Oaxaca, Mexico, amazing woman. And she has this saying that's connected to this medicine. And the saying is, you are the medicine. And that's what it is. You discover inside of yourself, you actually know already. This is nothing. I don't do anything to anybody. This is all inside of you. And this woman with the divorce, she said this was last week when she texted me, she's like, I'm done. And I said, we talked about it and decided her adult son was going to come over and sit with them while she told the husband, pack your bag, you're out. And she wanted to be there, right? Literally, she was doing this. And so her son, it's her second marriage. So it wasn't the father of the adult son. He was like 30 something. And so they hear the son sitting there, they hear the garage door open. And she tells her son, they had been talking, and she's like, okay, I need you to be quiet. And she literally did what we do. She closed her eyes. She dropped in. She connected to her power center, and it just was like, got herself aligned, and he comes in, she did her thing, told him, go get an overnight bag, out you go. And then he left. And the son was like, oh my God, Mom, who are you? What was that? Oh my, he'd never seen his mother, right? Am I allowed to swear? Can I swear on this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things, like with her, and one of the things when I'm working with women, I'm like, you're a fucking goddess, so start acting like it. And so that's what she did. This man, she's a fucking goddess. And he was a shit. He was lying to her. He didn't work. Like, he was being a shit. Right. Yeah. And so she's like, she is on the roller coaster of divorcing and separating all that. And she is like, how would a goddess do this? How would a goddess conduct herself? And that's what she's doing. And that's what she's connected into. And that's what we connect into with this. That's awesome. Yeah.
It is. It's awesome. Your stories are beautiful. And I hope that the listeners, when they hear this later, they're going to enjoy it as much as we are. Because I can tell by the look Kim and Kimmy's face too. Both of us are like, I need to know kind of people, right? And you're doing a good job of feeding us that information that we're looking for.
So powerful.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, like with some of my clients, I use watercolor. I use painting also as one of our the ways to access ourselves, right? And the ways to get things flowing and get the creativity, because one of the common denominator effects is the creativity and problem solving, right? You think outside the box and doing, and so like this woman that just booted her husband, the fucking goddess, right? She, um, she hadn't paint. She had been told as a kid that she was a bad artist. She couldn't paint. She couldn't draw. Like she had this messaging that she would, because I brought it up to her. She's like, I don't paint. I'm not doing that. You know, I'm like, let me show you my technique. And it's this technique that everybody loves once they get into it, because it's non-threatening and it really does connect in with, we all are an artist, and it's, you're not like painting a pretty picture kind of thing where there's this expected outcome of a dog, right? It's not that. So she started painting, and she is so into it. I have another guy, like these people discover this stuff inside of them, that the conditioning or the messages we're told about ourselves begin to unravel. They begin to unravel, and we get in touch with, honestly, our truth and our honesty. It's amazing.
I love that. You can tell how passionate you are about it, which is wonderful to see. I love that you give the disclaimer to people, because people need to know, right? Like all of a sudden your whole life is kind of shook.
Yep.
Because you're becoming more centered and into yourself. And
Yep.
so, people need to be aware, because people probably just like, oh yeah, not me. Well, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can usually see it because like that woman, she was ripe. That's why she was doing it. She was like, and when I was hearing her talking and describing the situation, she wasn't very far from it, but she had so much self-doubt, and she had this very old tape running about she needs to make the marriage work. That's what you do. She had a religious background, right? So like, this is what you do. You make it work. And her whole thing was, have I tried hard enough? Right? It's been 14 years of this guy, and he was a jerk. He didn't work. He lied to her. He lied to her. So he lied to her every single day, and so she was on that precipice. It might have taken her another 5 years though. And now she is just like, oh my gosh, I have my life. She's so good. Even though it's still hard. And it was just last week, she is like, oh, I'm back.
Well, just a sense of relief, right? Because I think when we come home to ourselves, there is, like you're saying, there's that knowing when you come home to yourself, and there's a sense of peace with it. So I think, you're right. Things would likely take place, down the road, but if they can take place now, just so that we can move our life forward at a quicker speed, why wouldn't we want that?
Yeah,
right.
exactly. But you're right. I do have to warn people sometimes, like, especially if I see a little something, I'm like, ooh, honey, this is like, you got to know, because you may not want that. I have a couple I'm working with right now, older couple, and they want to quit smoking, and they're both microdosing. And so we talked about that at the beginning. And I said, but you need to really commit. You can't just like try to quit smoking. So if you're not ready, don't do it now, because we don't want any false starts here, right? Like, you have to be 100% in this. So they postpone the quitting smoking because their commitment level is not there yet. So they're doing other stuff. I'm like, good. Like, I don't care. I mean, I don't want you to smoke, of course, but like, that's not what you got to do, what you're ready for. So that's part of it too, is like, yeah, they're going to, I think they want to, but their commitment level is not there yet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And maybe when they shift other things, they'll be more ready at that point, right? They're like, oh, what was I thinking? Yeah, I'm totally ready for that now.
Yeah. And they've never done any kind of hallucinogenic stuff. So microdosing is a big deal. They're in their 70s and they're like, this is drugs, So that it's a big deal that they're even microdosing. So the woman is like, I just want to get used to this before I'm like, that makes sense. Like, just adjust to the fact that you're taking drugs, right? It's not, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh my gosh, wow, what are we doing? This is so naughty. But so they have to adjust the fact that they're doing this. And I think I don't know that he's going to ever do it, but I think she will. I think she'll quit, but I don't think he will. That's my
Some are just okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Lots of information, woman.
There was lots of information. So can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah. So I am on Instagram. That's one of the ways. So it's Pam Rivers Guide. And then email pamriversguide@gmail.com. I do not have a website. And I go back and forth about that. And I don't know that I'm going to do it. So my email. So it's interesting because this is, it's what I do is not illegal because I don't provide anything. But when I started out, I wasn't as clear about this. So I may end up doing a website at some point. But so yeah, my Instagram, Pam Rivers Guide, or my email, pamriversguide@gmail.com. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, we will put that into the show note, and so that's where people would get a hold of you if they wanted one of these programs and that you offer. And you sent the bio, you offer a lot, so which is amazing. So, and this has been an amazing hour with so much information.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's a powerful tool. That's what it is. And I think that I I I know people say there are no shortcuts, but I think it's a shortcut. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. I describe it as like it's a slingshot, and then you have to flap your wings,
Nice.
right? Because you can get slingshotted out there and then plunk down.
Right.
Yes.
Or yeah, right?
Yeah. So if you had a final thought to leave with the listeners, what would it be?
You are the medicine. It's all in us. And it's about uncovering it and pulling things forward and letting things come forward. But you are the medicine. I am the medicine for me. And it's all in us. We all have access to it.
We have to have you back on so you can talk about Dinner with the Dead.
Okay.
And some of the other things that you do.
Yeah. I would love to. It's fun. It's amazing. Yeah. And then the only other thing I would say is with this 12-week program, my kind of agenda beneath all of this, and part of when I came into this work, what I wanted to do was work upstream with people with power and money, because that's where change actually comes from, right? Those are the people that can shift the paradigm, can make a real difference. And my work as a therapist was always with marginalized populations, people in poverty. I was very social worky, right? So I loved it. And then I had this thing of like, but to change that, we need to have the people with power and money understand what's happening down here. And that's really where change comes from. So in my 12-week microdosing program, I'm targeting powerful women that are in powerful careers so that they can get aligned inside to come out and be part of shifting the paradigm. Women need to come forward more than ever now, more than ever. We, especially in the United States, but worldwide, like we have got to come forward like never before. And that's what I want to do. That's part of my agenda in this, is working with these women that are already kicking ass out there, but out of alignment. And then they come forward, and then they use their position, they use their privilege, their education, whatever they have, to actually be the change, right? To make big moves and change society. So
as it is.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing time with us and giving us all this information and all of our followers. It's been just such a pleasure. And yeah, you'll have to come back on and tell us more.
Okay. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Welcome. And everybody else, tune in next time.
You sure will.